Hi, my name is Anna Gray Hart. I'm the Associate Director for Family Engagement here at Davidson and a proud member of the class of 1995 as well. Thank you. I have the privilege this morning of welcoming you to the Family Orientation in the Life at Davidson session. First, let me congratulate you. You've made it through the packing, the endless boxes and bags, and the quandary of deciding whether or not your student will actually use 2 sets of extra long fitted sheets. Spoiler alert, let me tell you from experience, sadly, 1 set will suffice. When I went to pick up my oldest daughter from college her first year, I'm not sure they'd ever been changed. So I know today does come with a mix of pride, excitement, and perhaps a little bit of anxiety. But I want to reassure you that while your students are stepping into their new home, you are also stepping into a community that is ready to support and embrace your family. The Office of Alumni and Family Engagement is privileged to be part of that support system. Think of our office as your primary home base. When questions arise down the road, our team is here as a resource for you, and if we don't know the answer, we will certainly help you find it. Our office also provides ways for you to stay connected to Davidson. You should be receiving emails from us regularly. If you're not, please reach out to our office. There may be some sort of glitch in our system and we don't have an email on file. So make sure you're checking emails. We send a family digest monthly that's filled with information, resources, and dates that are super valuable. We'll be hosting Wildcat Weekend, which is our family weekend this fall, October 16th through 18th, so we'll hope you'll come back and join us for that. We also will offer a series of virtual programming as well, so be on the lookout for all of those things throughout the year, and I encourage you to take advantage of all of those resources that will support your Davidson journey. Now, part of that journey is giving your students the space to adapt and connect and problem solve as they grow into their independence. Even if that means learning some tough lessons like a red shirt will make your white socks red or pink if you wash them in hot water. But as you step into the next chapter, I know you'll find just the right balance between the challenge and support that your student needs. You'll be amazed how quickly your students' competence and confidence develop. You can rest assured, though, that you will always be your students' constant in this season of change. We're glad you're here, and we look forward to supporting you over the next 4 years. So sit back and relax this morning, and we'll dive into what Life at Davidson is all about. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Emily Eisenstadt. I'm the Assistant Dean of Student Engagement and Director of the College Union. One of my roles here at the college is organizing new student and family orientation. So we have been preparing all summer for you and your students to be here. We're so happy you're here. One of our big goals with orientation is that your students walk away feeling like they belong at Davidson, and our orientation team is here to foster that belonging this week, and we hope that you leave family orientation also feeling that same sense of belonging with Davidson. When we're not in orientation planning mode, I work closely with our student organizations and the Student Activities Office, with the College Union, the building you're in now, as well as supporting our Davidson Outdoors program, our Lula Bells Houston Resource Center, and our Chidsey Leadership Program. Today, this is mostly a Q&A for you to get your questions answered, so I'll introduce our panelists, but go ahead and start thinking of those questions. I am excited to be joined on stage by Dr. Marquita Barker, Dr. Shelley Rigger, and Angie Dewberry. I'll let them introduce themselves and their role at the college, and then we'll get started on questions. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Emily. Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Yes, I love that energy. I saw many of you last night, right? Yes, and you're here. It's not too early, but it is a little bit early, so I appreciate you being here this morning. I'm Marquita Barker. I'm the Vice President for Student Life and Dean of Students, as you know, and I get the privilege of working with people like Emily and 14 departments in student life that cover the gamut of academic access, residence life, student activities, the Dean of Students office that includes our care team and our Director of Student Rights and Responsibilities. We basically have a whole slate of offices outside of the academic experience to support your students' experience here at Davidson. So I'm excited to be here with you this morning and looking forward to answering your questions.
Greetings. I am Shelley Rigger. I am the Vice President for Academic Affairs and Dean of Faculty. I have been at Davidson since the fall of 1993. I started as a faculty member in the political science department, also have taught in Chinese studies. I'm a political scientist specializing in East Asian politics. And 4 years ago, I'm starting my 5th year, I was asked to step in as the Vice President for Academic Affairs and Dean of Faculty. So sometimes I feel like I have like too long of a memory, and that makes me get long-winded answering questions. But I give you this background just so you know that while I've been in my current office only 4 years, I know Davidson pretty inside and out. So looking forward to the opportunity to answer your questions about the academic program, which is my responsibility.
Good morning, I'm Angie Dewberry. I'm the Registrar and Director of Advising. I'm heading into my 15th year of working at Davidson, but I'm also an alum from the class of 2000. With my registrar hat on, we're gonna help your students do all their basic stuff, register for classes, graduate in 4 years. If they want to take summer school, we'll help them do that. If they need to fill out forms, we're going to teach them how to do those adulting tasks like their health insurance and car insurance forms. With my advising hat on, we help organize the advising program here, which pairs students with an advisor. That person's kind of their contact person. They have questions, they don't know where to go, they can go talk to their advisor who can refer them out to the various areas on campus that can help them while they're here.
We have 2 mic runners in the audience today, Nicole and Madeline in their white polos. They're 2 of our orientation team leaders. They're going to be running mics, and so if you have a question, would love for you to hold your hand up high so they can get a mic to you, and we'll just kind of toggle back and forth the sides of the room. So Nicole, we have a question down in front to get started.
Hello, I have a question about the interaction between residence life and everything else that happens on campus. And I'm coming at this from the perspective of someone who registered for Davidson 39 years ago and graduated in 91. And my daughter is in First Richardson, which from the outside looks very much like it looked 39 years ago. From the inside, some things have changed. There's an elevator, which is different. There's also half the hall, it's a co-ed hall. It was an entirely single-sex dorm when we were here. And the hall counselors are men who are sophomores, not women who are juniors, which would have been the setup when we were here. A lot of things have changed, and of course, as people say, much of what our daughter's going to learn here is going to be happening outside of the classroom in the context of what happens with the people that she lives with. And I'm curious, you don't stumble into the choice to make a co-ed hall. It's an intentional choice. And I think it's probably a wise choice, but I'm curious what you've been able to observe about how that kind of living arrangement affects the way that people join this community and move forward into this community, because it's not, we were having freshman hall mixers with other freshman halls that were run in a certain way by our hall counselors, and seems like there's the opportunities for that introductory mixer dynamic are quite different now, and I'm curious how that plays out in how intentional some of these choices are, and how you've been able to track the impact of those choices.
Yeah, I think it's an attractive option for students. They get to learn from students who are different from them, no matter the gender, race, nationality. We have, international students, they live among students as well. And some of the best conversations that students tell us that they have are with their hallmates, just kind of randomly in the hall and lounges and things like that. Now, we definitely want more lounge space. Unfortunately, we have some students living in lounges right now. We are working on that in a few years. But yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for students to live live and to learn from each other. If students wanted a single gender situation, they could talk to Res Life. We do have a few halls that are a single gender setup, but most of our students enjoy kind of being amongst students. That's just how it is these days. And I've not heard a lot of students complain about the setup. They actually enjoy the community that they can build with each other. We do have plans to build more housing down the road, and what that setup will look like is more towards the needs of students today, because as you know, those are changing. We do need more single rooms on campus. We have a lot more students coming to us with just medical accommodations that we need to make sure that we pay attention to. Students with dietary issues, we need more kitchens in the halls. So we're trying to make sure that we keep up with what the changing and dynamic issues are with students, and that speaks to some of that, I think.
Next question. Madeline, question in the middle.
Hi, I have a question about the class registration process that was done several weeks ago. And my daughter has only received 2 classes so far. I talked to a lot of other parents where their students have already received all 4 of their classes. So she's gotten 2 classes, and one of them she's not even that interested in. Everybody I talk to says that everything's going to work out. You got to do the add drop starting tomorrow morning. You got to be there 7 o'clock. But it's a possibility. There's a possibility she might miss out on those classes. So, in the meantime, even though we knew about this several weeks ago, it's been kind of stressful to some degree for all of us, including our daughter. And I'm just wondering, you know, everybody says it's going to work out, but from what I understand and what I read is that it might not be finalized for several weeks after classes start. So then she's going to miss classes that she should have been going to already. I mean, yeah, we're paying a lot of money for this school, and she doesn't have all 4 of her classes, but a lot of the students already do. So maybe it's not the best way of figuring out, you know, the classes for the students.
So, anyways, I just want to start at the beginning. So we do WebTree in the month of June, which we really like because it's the whole month. So someone goes on vacation for a week, it's not like they miss out on registration. I've also worked at other schools where seniors get every class first, then juniors get every class, sophomores get every class, and orientation ends in tears with the first years. That does not happen here, so I do think that fundamentally our system is a good one. Sometimes students don't end up with all 4 classes after WebTree because they've used a lot of their spaces on WebTree trying to get into classes that have a lot of sections. So let's say you're interested in pre-med. You probably filled up your tree with all the different sections of bio or chemistry, and that's how by the time we get to the end, you've got a bio or chemistry class, but you don't have the full array of 4 classes. Every student has to take 4 classes, so there is no way that we will get to the end of that drop and someone won't be in 4 classes. So I think when people are telling you it'll all work out, it's because it has to work out. Like, we all have to get into 4 classes. Add drop does open tomorrow at 7 a.m., so students have already been in touch with their advisors. There's a handful of students who didn't do WebTree at all, so they're starting with no classes, and they will add drop tomorrow at 7 a.m. You can go onto the schedule right now, and so we've been advising the students to look at the schedule now, see what's open, so you're ready to go at 7 a.m. The first week of school is what we call like regular add drop, and that's because a lot of students will sit in class for the first time and it's not what they were expecting. You know, they had an idea about something from high school, it's completely different, so they're going to drop the class. So there's a lot of movement in the first week of add drop. And our goal is that every student be sort of settled in by the end of week 1. If that doesn't happen for some reason, we kind of follow up with the few students that are still trying to work it out in week 2. But again, the goal is not to miss a lot of class. We've got this whole thing squared away at the end of week 1. I have been in touch with several advisors with students who were anxious, and we've sent the students a bunch of class options related to their interests ahead of time. So if you want to just come over here after we're done and tell me your child's name. I want to see if it's someone that we've already gone back and forth with to make sure that they're ready to go tomorrow morning at 7.
I would just point you to one, or really ask you to point your students to one other resource if they're still looking for classes. At the top of the schedule page, there is a little link that says all courses by alphabetical order, something like that. And what that is it's a list of every course that's offered this semester. It has all of the registration information, the time, and any prerequisites, whether there are seats available. The thing about that list is that there are many wonderful courses that many students never see, because the way they select their courses is they say, oh, I want to do chemistry, I want to do political science, I want to do English. And they never think about, I want to do data science, or I want to, what's behind this magic button called Center for Interdisciplinary Studies? The alphabetical list allows them to see every single course that's available. And every time I have showed that to a student, and I've showed it to a lot of students because I'm enthusiastic about it, obviously, they always say, oh my gosh, I didn't know we had that. And these are juniors and seniors mostly. I didn't know that's so cool. And then, of course, the second semester senior says, oh my God, I wish I had known about this, I would have taken that class. So it's not necessary only to look at the courses in the disciplines that you already think you're interested in, but to see how a topic that's really exciting might appear in a place you don't expect is another important way to explore the curriculum. And we have that list linked from the page. It's just the alphabetical list.
One other thing I just wanted to point out, I checked yesterday, and there are different graduation requirements that the students have to take, like Writing 101 or language, but there's a group of classes we call Ways of Knowing, so like a historical thought where you learn to think like a historian, or literary studies, creative writing, rhetoric. Anyways, we were talking to the advisors yesterday, and there are seats open in classes that meet every way of knowing. So at some point during their time here, students will need to take one class in all of the different ways of knowing, and there are spots open in classes that meet all of the different ways of knowing.
But I'm actually going to piggyback on this topic. Are new classes ever added at this point? And I ask that because this is our second child to go to college. The first is not at Davidson, but I know the trials and tribulations of getting registered for classes, but the Writing 101, as a freshman, they need that. And my daughter did not get a Writing 101. There were none available that were going to meet her schedule. And my kind of issue with that is Davidson's pretty static in student numbers. So why would there be such a scarcity for the Writing 101 classes?
I can't tell who's talking, so I'm just going to look out. So we do sometimes make changes. So in the past 2 weeks, 2 300-level classes that had low enrollments were canceled, and they were replaced with Writing 101 sections. So currently on the schedule, there are 2 new Writing 101 classes, but those are going to fill. And so not every student takes Writing 101 in the fall. It's a class that needs to be taken during the first year. So we have enough sections of Writing 101 between the fall and spring semesters for every student to take Writing 101. And they have to take Writing 101, so there's enough sections for everybody.
Next question, down.
Hello. My question is very simple. My daughter's chair desk is broken. And I don't really know how to start where do I go to like put an order to get a new one?
The Residence Life Office. They can work with facilities to get her a new chair.
Thank you.
Battling question in the back.
Hi. I had a question regarding, we heard a little bit from President Hicks last night on AI and its obviously dynamic role in academics. I was just curious if any of you had any more insight as to how Davidson is applying that, and in particular, you know, how it relates to, you're obviously driven by an honor code, and obviously all schools are sort of dealing with AI and its role and good use versus bad use and that sort of thing. So I was curious if you could comment a little further on that.
Sure. You know, AI dropped on us like a bomb in whatever it was, November of 22 or 23, and we immediately started to think, what does this mean for us? What does this mean for education, for higher education, for this kind of higher education? And we have been intensifying our effort to respond and to understand how we need to approach artificial intelligence ever since. So 2 weeks ago, we had a course development institute in the age of AI for faculty. And faculty spent an entire week revising their syllabi and their assignments in response to what we know now about the current state of AI as our students can access it. So we started with the learning outcomes on our syllabi. Are these learning outcomes that make sense in the age of artificial intelligence? What do we need to add as a learning outcome, and what needs to be adjusted? And then we moved from learning outcomes to specific assignments. So for example, I'm working on my syllabus right now, and there is room in my class. Political Science 342, Politics, Economics, and Society in China, no prerequisites. Any student can take that course. It has a 300 number because it's a political science course on a very focused topic, but it's not any harder than a lot of other things that they can take. So Paul 342A. Welcome, everybody. So I'm thinking about, what am I assigning? Because one of the assignments that I've had for about the last 4 years just feels completely pointless. It was an assignment to translate a piece of academic writing, so an academic study, for a general readership audience on the model of the Washington Post monkey cage, which is a feature that the Washington Post used to do, where academics would rewrite their studies for Washington Post readers. And I just realized that students are not going to be asked to do this in the future because their bosses are going to ask ChatGPT to summarize academic articles for them. So how do I make sure that my students are better than ChatGPT in making sense of and communicating about academic writing? So my new assignment, and I was pushed to do this by the Course Development Institute, will involve presenting in class and responding to other students and connecting the reading to other texts and topics that we've already covered in class. So actually asking students to do a higher level task, because the lower level task is now one that I believe many employers and others in our lives are going to allow us, or they're going to tell us we have to use AI to do it. So we are all thinking like that. And some people are really excited about AI. Our data science professor, Pete Benbow, and our sort of hardware systems computer scientist, Terrence Lim, have incredible ideas for how to make their students AI competent in data science and computer science, while at the same time making sure that they have all of the foundational knowledge so that they are working with and supervising the AI, not just sort of tagging along behind and hoping that it's right because they're not really sure how to tell whether it's right or wrong. So they're much more active in exploration and in putting AI very intentionally into their courses. Others are looking for more traditional and low-tech ways to make sure that students continue to learn what we want them to learn. But I don't think there's anyone here who's not aware. And then as far as, preparing students for an AI world with skills and capacity to use the technology, we are also thinking about, especially the Matthews Center for Career Development and the HURT Hub for Entrepreneurship and Innovation are very active in helping students develop skills outside of their academic work, so that the core cognitive and intellectual work in the classroom continues, but they are also able to access, experiment, and develop skills in those more professional-facing programs that will put them in a better position when they're interviewing for jobs where they're asked AI-relevant questions.
Question in the back.
Oh, thanks. Well, we're so excited to be here, and everything's been beautiful and warm and welcoming, and our son feels exactly the same way, so thank you. Can I ask a question on his behalf that's on his mind? I'm wondering if the tech staff is fully staffed right now. Over the summer, he was logged in on his computer, tried to log in on his phone, was unsuccessful, so he reset his password on his computer, couldn't get in at all. So he made an appointment with tech support that took about 5 days to get in. So he was blocked out of everything for 4 or 5 days. So yesterday when we arrived, he couldn't get on, A, couldn't get on Wi-Fi, kept getting rejected, and then B, had the same problem where he wanted to get access to his Davidson email on his phone, but couldn't, and was afraid to reset his password because of the previous experience. He called tech support, they did not answer, and he sent them an email, and he's wondering if it's gonna be 4 more days until he can get an appointment.
Absolutely, they are here. I know they were at the orientation fair this morning. Tomorrow afternoon, from 1 to 3, they'll be set up in the Union as well as on Main Street. They are on campus now. He can also ask his OTM for help, but they are on campus. Their office is located on Main Street, but there also are set times for students to connect with our T&I staff this week. But hope he gets help soon and gets in.
I was just going to say, if he's nervous about adding and dropping at 7 a.m. with the whole technology thing, I physically will be in my office at 6:45 in the morning in Chambers. I know it's early, but I'm in there, and so, he could just walk over. He might need his CAT card to get into Chambers because it's super early in the morning, but just come over, go to Chambers 1197. I'll be sitting in there, so if he needs help early in the morning, I can help him, because on my end, I can just add and drop people from classes. So he wouldn't have to be logged in at 7 a.m. if he needs help.
Next question in the front, yes.
Hi. Now that the dust is starting to settle, I'd love to hear something that each of you thinks Davidson does really well, that students don't often tend to appreciate until later on in the process, junior, senior year. Put another way, what's something you wish students took more advantage of from day one that they don't usually start to take advantage of until later?
I'm putting my alumni hat on. There's a lot of things that I appreciate now that I did not appreciate at all as a student when I was here. I might just go with networking. There's just so many people here that want to help you, and they want to help you after you graduate, and they want to help you throughout your whole career and your whole life. And I don't know why it took me a while to kind of figure that out. Maybe it was when I was applying to grad school and I reluctantly went back and asked some of my history professors for recommendations, but I think just kind of reaching out to people early and often while you're here and practicing that. Like every faculty member has office hours. Sometimes students think, Office hours are for if you don't understand what's going on in class and that you need help with your class. But actually, office hours are great for just generic networking, like meeting your faculty member as a real life person, talking about common interests, like the faculty members want to get to know you. And then maybe that's a faculty member you end up doing research with later on. So I think I personally kind of undervalued getting to know people, especially adults that I put in a different category when I was here and younger. But now that I'm graduated a long time ago, it's like you realize those people are going to be there for you. I mean, since I graduated, I've moved to a bunch of random cities, and every time I move to a new city, it's like I just go to that Davidson alumni meetup, and people I went to school with, maybe I wasn't even friends with them, or they're from a different class year, doesn't really matter. They're there to welcome you to the new city that you just moved to, and you kind of have those friends. So I don't know, I think that's something on my end.
So to that point, last night I was having dinner with a colleague from the German Studies Department because his son, who's the same age as one of my kids, was visiting. And the son asked, "So do you remember everybody you ever taught?" And his father and I started the same year, 1993, and we both looked at him like, of course we do. So people come up to me all the time at alumni events and say, "You probably don't remember me. But if I can see what your name is, I almost certainly do. And if I don't, it freaks me out. Like I'm running to my old grade book to figure out, who is this person? How can I not remember them?" So yes, on that. What I think students, especially first years, so first year students have just emerged from this horrible funnel of a gauntlet of a tormentuous process of getting into college. And all they have thought about for way too long is, am I doing all the right things in order to get into where I want to go? And so they come to us girded for battle, like, all right, what do I have to do here to get to the next thing? And what I wish I could get every student to understand is, like, you're here for 4 years. That's 4 academic years and 3 long, luxurious, beautiful summers. This is time stretching out in front of you where you can actually try stuff. You can try the ropes course at Davidson Outdoors. I'm not going to try it, but you can try it. You can go to Montgomery, Alabama with our Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for fall break and experience the Equal Justice Project. You can do the Political Science Department's Davidson and Washington program. You can take a course in Latin American studies or religious studies. You can do all this stuff. No one is counting anymore. No one cares about checking the boxes. You do not need to start a club. You can if you want to, but you don't need to. It's not going to help you in your future. You don't have to be the president of everything. This is such a gift. And somebody said we're paying a lot of money. Yes, you are. And even if you're not, even if someone else is paying for some portion of your students' expenses to be here, and actually all of you are benefiting from the fact that the cost, our cost to educate a student is about like 25% higher than our full tuition and fees, and that difference is paid by our alumni, philanthropists, and benefactors. So it is expensive, but what it is it's 4 years out of one human life to actually grow up in a community of smart, engaged peers and caring, committed adults. And rather than like hunkering down and trying to figure out how to win this thing, I wish that your students would understand it's not a contest anymore. You already won, and the prize is 4 years of peace exploration, and discovery.
Yeah, I don't really know how to follow that. Sorry. So I will just shamelessly say that I think that Davidson does the honor code really well. I have no shame in saying that. AI definitely has presented some new and interesting challenges for us, but it's not just about the academic experience when we care about the honor code. We care about how we treat each other, how we talk to each other, even when we disagree. I think we role model that as faculty and staff for students, and so I would say for students to take advantage of that, to learn from their peers, to learn from their faculty and staff, because knowing how to talk to people, knowing how to win an argument, well, to have a spirited discussion, not necessarily win an argument. I'm the oldest daughter, so I like to win arguments. But, that is a great skill to have in life, in your professional career, so I think we do that really well.
One of my favorite things about working with Davidson students is I think in general they have a real culture of wanting to leave this place better than they found it. And we are a group of faculty and staff that want to help make that happen for them. And so if they have an idea for maybe it is a new organization or a policy change or a new Davidson Outdoors trip, we help make that happen, and we want student voices involved every step of the way. And so I would offer, they're figuring out for themselves. They know, I think pretty quickly that that is something we value and that there's many ways for them to get involved. But I would just say that I think that's a really special thing here, that students feel that way and act that way. Next question down here.
First, thank you guys so much for doing this. All of the classes look amazing, but my daughter has a question about a very basic class. She wanted to maybe learn Spanish while she was here, but it looks like all of the intro Spanish classes require that you've already had Spanish. Are we reading something wrong, or is there another way to learn Spanish?
So if you're brand new at a language, you start at the 101 level. So you start with Spanish 101. But with that said, Spanish 101 is full. So you would be taking Spanish 101 in the spring. You would try for it in the spring.
But it says something like Spanish 101, you have to have had some high school Spanish.
No, you
Well,
can just
okay.
you can just start fresh in
Okay.
Spanish 101. There's also a lot of other languages that have openings. Something we've noticed in recent years is that high schools are basically offering fewer languages, which is really sad. My daughter's high school only offers Spanish, so she has no other options. So I know that Shelley was talking about exploration, but we do offer a lot of other languages. So German, Chinese, Russian, Arabic, Greek, Latin, French. So there are some other options too, in case your student wants to try a new language because they didn't get the opportunity to in high school. But in that case, try for Spanish 101 in the spring.
Hi. I had a question about choosing a major, and I'm thinking about when I was a college student here. Actually, I was in Dr. Rigger's first class, Comparative Politics, in the fall of 1993. I really felt like I could study what I loved, and I ended up majoring in political science because I loved that. I know my own child is already thinking about what's going to be a marketable major, and I'm curious what you observe about students now. Do they feel that they can study what they love, or is there a kind of groupthink that funnels them towards the majors that they perceive to be marketable? And I'm also curious what advice we should give to our kids when they are feeling uncertain or indecision. What's the right thing that we should tell them?
Okay, well, just in general, students don't have to declare their major until the end of sophomore year, so there's plenty of time. I know that there is sometimes a tension there. So on the one hand, like, how do you know what you want to major in unless you've taken classes in those areas? And there's a lot of areas here that the students have never tried before. I mean, gender and sexuality studies, Africana studies, Latin American studies. I mean, even just psychology. Lots of high schools don't even offer an introductory psychology class. So there's just a lot of areas that they might not know about, and so they need a little time to explore. So even if your child is like, I want to be a biology major all the way, I wouldn't have them declaring their major too early. You don't know what you don't know, so kind of need some time to explore. On the other hand, if your child's pretty certain, they're interested in chemistry, that major, or physics, they're a little bit hierarchical, and so during that first year, we want to get that basic chemistry class or that first basic physics class out of the way so that they're well on their way sophomore year for the major. I was a history major. We still have lots of history majors. All of us are gainfully employed. I think the career development, the Matthews Center for Career Development office does a really, really good job of working with the students on your major is one thing and your future job is another thing, and those might be related, but they might not be related. Sometimes you just need to take certain courses, we don't have an accounting major, but we have a few accounting classes within the economics major, and there's plenty of alums who are accountants, right? So there's a lot of different ways with that. And I would just suggest in general, even though it's hard to think about now, it's too early now, but at some point in the first year, visiting that Matthews Center for Career Development, just to kind of get those fundamental first steps down on just kind of thinking through some of those thoughts.
There is definitely groupthink, and it's among the students. I had this fantastic student in my office a couple years ago, and he's a computer science and econ major, and he really wanted to do something fabulous during the summer. And I said, well, that's what the Dean Rusk program for international studies is about. They have all this grant money that they give students to go do something fabulous overseas during the summer. So there's nothing I love better than sending other people's kids to foreign countries for the summer, which I thought was normal until my own kid was like, no, Mom, I'm doing an internship in Ohio this summer. And I thought, what do you mean you're not coming home? But anyway, and he said, I think I have to do an internship. And I said, well, who's telling you have to do an internship? And I had a secret weapon because I knew his parents. And I knew that his parents were the last people in the world who would say, you need to go to a bank and do an internship for the summer. And I said, you hearing that from your professors? No. You hearing that from your parents? No. Who's telling you this? My peers. My peers are telling me so they're still at war with the world, and they care about each other, and they don't want to, no soldier left behind. So they do tend to push each other toward what they think are these professional guarantees. But what we know is that, one, there are no professional guarantees. Two, if you hate the major, you're not going to thrive, and you're not going to present as someone who's going to be successful in that career. And finally, it's not what the world is asking, that specifically employers are asking us for either. So we've had a steady stream of captains of industry talking to our president about how enthusiastic they are about liberal arts graduates because they need people who are flexible, who understand a lot of things, who can think for themselves, who are not just trained to do something because too many of the somethings keep getting taken over by technology. So they want our students, but they want students with a broad knowledge and a lot of soft and also technical skills which students can get in any major. So Pete Benbow, who I mentioned before, professor of the practice in data science, is a data scientist and an absolute super achiever in that regard. He was a political science major at Davidson. He took my class too. And he would tell you, I never in a million years thought I was going to end up being in a technical field, but my overall preparation has enabled me to do this kind of work. So, you know, just doing the thing that you think you love is probably not a good idea, because that you're you know, explore that, but explore other things too. But feeling like I am called to history, but I have to do econ because that's the only way I can avoid penury in my middle age, is really not the answer.
Next question over here.
Really basic. If we left a piece of paper that said who and where we were meeting with our holistic advisor at 1:30, probably not the only one.
Yes, I was going to end with this. This is a good information for everybody. If you do not know who your student's holistic advisor is or where the meeting is, I'm going to stick around after and you can come see me. We'll also have the same white polos that Nicole and Madeline are currently wearing. We'll have those lists at the picnic as well. So we will get you that information before that 1:30 meeting. But I'll also stick around on stage after if you just want to come see me here.
Second one, who would help to change the bed height?
Oh, the bed height. So contact Residence Life again, and they can work with facilities and they can come help do that.
We have a question over here.
Hi. Just to follow up on the, anxious about your class schedule and the add drop period. My daughter has already looked at all the options that are available that fit with her schedule, et cetera, et cetera. And, can you give a little information on turnover? Like if all the classes that she's really interested in are showing as, 0 of 16 spots, all sections of them, is there any chance spots will open up? Should she expect that, or should she just focus on classes that have spots?
So in general, I always want students to get in 4 for tomorrow. Like let's start the school year with 4 classes, right? Get into a backup, and then, the first week of school, if a class seats 30 students, it's a rare day when all 30 stay in it in the first week. So I would say most classes with a ceiling of 30, at least 2 or 3 will switch over at some point that first week. We've also emailed students who already got AP credit for a class, but they're sitting in it right now. Our general advice in that case is to move along. Sometimes students are nervous to move to the second level, but they're more than capable. I mean, these are Davidson students. They can certainly move on to a 200 level psychology class. They don't need to take Psych 101 again if they have AP credit for it. So we've already emailed all students in that situation. That'll free up a few spots. I will say that every year there's a different #1 class that I've heard about over the summer that people were hoping to get into. And this year's #1 class, I don't know if this applies to your child, it was Econ 101. Econ 101 is full, and we are offering 4 more sections of it in the spring. So I still think some people will go to Econ 101 next week and not like it, or it isn't what they thought, and they're gonna get out of it. So I think there will be some movement with Econ 101, but if not, we'll just go with that in the spring semester. Again, there's a lot of graduation requirements and other classes that need to be gotten. And also, if you want to come see me after, I'll be standing down there and we can strategize a little.
Before we head to the next question, if anyone on the second level has questions, keep your hand up high so I can send Madeline or Nicole up to find you. Question in the front, middle.
Hi there. I have a question that maybe can cut to the chase for some of us. In the first semester, I would like to know your experiences of the most common thing you end up having a student like weeping in your office about, or a parent holding back sobs over the phone about, so you can tell us what you tell those individuals when that happens.
Okay, I can start here. I will say sometimes students feel like they're behind. Like we have really bright and wonderful students, and so sometimes they compare themselves to the person beside them, and they think, man, I'm behind. They are not. They are exactly where they belong. I would say the second thing is that they're homesick. They're not accustomed to being away. They don't know anyone. Maybe mom and dad are also maybe, encouraging them to come home. So that has happened several times. And so, it's going to be hard at first, I would say. Please have your students stick it out. We have a great the first 45 days program here, because we know in the first 45 days, those are the days when students, we have to hook them. We have to let them know that it'll be okay in the first 45 days. And so we have lots of programming, lots of opportunities for them to be involved. So I would say if your student is feeling sad or homesick, please encourage them to come talk to the Dean of Students office so that we can get them connected.
Your student has the calendar for the first 45-day programming in their orientation packet, as well as the calendar for Wildcat Welcome Week, which is a jam-packed week of events next week to kick off their semester.
I just want to take the question in a serious direction, which is, it's 4 years and something really bad might happen in 4 years. That's a long time in just a person's life. And so surprisingly, students actually don't come to my office and cry about their class schedule or anything. We always work that out. But sometimes, like, something really sad has happened, like a grandparent has passed away, or they're sick, or something really bad is happening. If there's something really terrible going on, and you are concerned about your student, there is a form that lives on the public Davidson website, and it's called the CARE form. And I'm on the CARE team, and basically you could fill that out. So you could fill that out and let the college know, like, hey, my student's grandparent just passed away, and they're really close to this person, and so they might be going through a hard time. And then our college's caseworker will reach out to the student. And so the advisors might tell you that again later today, but I just wanted to point that out, that is a really great resource for you to let us know if something hard is happening.
For professors, it's two things. One is I didn't do well on the first assignment, and I have been in that nightmare funnel since I was a child of trying to get here, and now I was going to be perfect here, and I'm not. And so, that's called learning. And we don't want people to already know everything that we're teaching here so that they can do it with ease and perfection from the beginning. That really would be a waste of everyone's money. So, we try to remind them that, and we tell them horror stories about our own educational background. Not that you have any horror stories.
I do, calculus.
Yeah, calculus. Econ 101, actually, squeaked by, being tutored by a guy who is now like a professional economist the whole time. So that one, and then the other one actually is the homesickness and I'm not making friends. Everybody seems so ecstatic all the time, and I don't feel that. And I love it when students will open up in that way to a faculty member, because that means we are doing the thing that we promise, which is to have real relationships with students.
So no one's asked me this question yet, and I know we're running out of time, and I promised the advisors I would pre-answer this question. So usually every year I get asked two questions. One is about AdDrop, and the other is about how can I see my child's grades? So I want to pre-answer that question so the advisors don't necessarily have to cover that later. It's interesting because now that I have a child that's a little bit older who's in high school, I'm like appalled by how much I can see in PowerSchool. It's like every assignment, I don't want to look at it, like don't show me everything, but there's really nothing for you to see. We do not, there isn't. You're not going to log into anything. There's no midterm grades. So some colleges have midterm grades. We do not have midterm grades. So weirdly, the student won't get their final grade. Grades this year are due January 5th. Okay, so it's a long way between now and January 5th. And usually when parents are asking about grades, they're not asking about the grades. They're basically asking, like, how can I make sure my child's doing okay academically? So from my experience as an advisor, usually when I'm talking to a student and I want to find out if they're doing okay academically, I'm usually starting with the most basic and obvious questions like, are you going to class, right? I mean, it's so basic, but all of these students are really smart. And if they are going to class, they're feeling healthy and good, like it's not a problem. I usually ask if they're, when do they go to sleep? Are they getting enough sleep every night? Are they eating 3 meals a day? These are such basic questions, but they're gonna have to take care of all of that themselves for the first time. So sometimes, like that first year, students will be like skipping lunch, or on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they don't have class till 11, so they're skipping breakfast. And I'm like, no, you need to wake up at a normal time, eat some breakfast, like get into a routine. So I think, those are some good questions you can be asking in the absence of having all those grades, is to just kind of ask them about their daily routine and see how that's going.
Can I just add one thing too? We have a phenomenal student health and well-being team, and student health and well-being here is counseling, health, nutrition, and health education. So if your student is getting to the point where they feel like maybe they're a little sick, maybe they're not sleeping or eating, we also have a registered dietitian, we have counselors. There's no limit to the number of sessions that your student can have with our on-campus counselors. The average number of sessions is about 6 per student. But if they feel like they need help, we have many tools in our toolbox, including the proactive end of student engagement, making sure that they're involved, and then more reactive things like counseling and health and the care team, which are really important. But we have many counselors. We have part-time counselors. We have interns. We also have a telehealth platform. If your student needs something at 2 a.m. and the office happens to be closed, they can log into Timely Care. So I would encourage your student to download that app as well and make sure that they're communicating if they need help.
Question over here.
That's okay. It's actually a perfect segue because that's kind of exactly where I was going with my question, piggybacking off of a couple of the earlier ones of what are those little gems that are available for the students that not everybody knows about. Like for me at my college, there was a massage therapist that came every Wednesday and was just sitting there waiting for somebody to come in and fill in those spots. And so I got a massage every Wednesday. So like those certain things like that, we just don't know that that's there, or like you mentioned the counselors and the dietitian and everything, but were there other little things that are like, just so you know, or like animal therapy or anything like that that comes in that isn't an everyday thing, but it is available and you just need to know when.
We do have some pet therapy that comes at the end of the semester. We advertise that pretty well.
Yeah, Puppy Day is an annual reading day event. Big fan, takes place in the building. That's a fun time. I was thinking about all the grant opportunities. If someone else wants to speak on that.
I was just going to say there's a lot of giveaways at the sports events, a lot of t-shirts, a lot of women's basketball. So when we joined the A10, I found out that there's some rules around like the television rights. So like you've got to have a band playing, you've got to fill the stands, you have to do all the stuff. So anyways, there's a lot of really fun giveaways at the women's sports events. So shout out for those.
Madeline,
a women's sports event.
Madeline and Nicole, do y'all have anything that you'd like to say?
Wait, okay. I have one that I think that a lot of the OTMs are going to touch on in the chats today, but it's this app called Davidson One. It has it's like got access to literally everything. It has the laundry app, so you can track if the laundry machines are open or not. It has direct lines to the dining menu, to like all the RLO information, like the RLO movie channel, which is just a bunch of really free movies, like all sorts of stuff. Both Wicked movies are on there, which I discovered last week when I was trying to start organizing my room and I needed something in the background. But it's got like literally like any access that you might need is going to be on there. Also Davidson Classifieds, which is just Craigslist, but just for Davidson. That is one of my personal favorites to just peruse. But that's my big recommendation.
I didn't even know that existed. Wow, okay, I'm going to check that out. I'm sure this has been mentioned, but Lulabelle's is a wonderful resource we have on campus. It is near Vail Commons next to RLO, and it's a place where students can go and get items, especially if they're not financially feasible for the student to purchase. So you need an outfit for an interview, some things to cook in your apartment. And I think that is very special and uniquely Davidson.
Question in the middle? Oh, down here. Great.
Thank you. So very quickly, from a very anxious parent, what are the basic safeguards that you have in place academically, physical health, mental health, for these kids who are glorified high schoolers, right? Who, like you said, come in. I teach at a university. I've had the most insane questions from incoming students, like, it's raining outside, what do I do? Real question. So I am more worried about, kids who maybe are experiencing distress but won't come to health services, or kids who are academically struggling but are not going to go to the advisor because they have been through that funnel and they're too embarrassed to go. What are the basic safeguards that you can tell us a little about?
I think there's just a lot of touch points across campus, and it's a lot of different people. So every year, different awards are given out at Davidson to staff members, and every year somebody from dining services wins an award because they have gotten to know the students on a personal level and are helping them. So I just want to, I'm going to start talking about advisors, but it's not just about people like advisors. There's just a million touch points around campus. It could be the person who cleans your child's hall because they see them a lot, right? So, but I would say, the advisor is a good place to go for those random questions, right? You don't know the answer, you're kind of embarrassed, you don't know where to go, just go to your advisor. Your advisor can help. If the advisor doesn't know the answer, they'll figure it out. And we always tell the advisors too, you're modeling the learning that we want the students to do. So like if an advisor is like, okay, the student is telling me they need to set up an appointment with, counseling services, the advisor might help them go to the website, find that link, and then the student can sign up for, a session. So, I would start with the advisor, and also academically, go directly to the source as the first thing. I think is just talk to the professor. The professor sees the student multiple times a week, and professors notice a lot. They notice if a student is acting differently from their normal vibes. So I think the faculty and the advisors are a good place. And then obviously all the resources with Residence Life. Those are people living with the students on the hall. I think I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's pretty hard to avoid all the people who are here trying to help the student. And I think what's more the problem might be the student is embarrassed to ask for help, right? Because all of your students essentially got straight A's in high school. So it's that muscle to ask for help might be a little weak. And so that's why I was saying, I sort of just suggest that my advisees go to office hours, even if they're just going to say hey to their professors, because it's a way to practice doing something before you're in crisis and you need to go see your professor for office hours, or practice asking your advisor some questions that you have.
As formal mechanisms, we have an academic warning that if the student is not performing well enough for the faculty member to feel comfortable that they're going to make it through the class successfully, they are expected to issue an academic warning to the registrar's office, to the advisor, to the student. And then the other thing that's already been mentioned, but I'll say it again, is the CARE form, which anyone can submit. You can submit, I can submit, we all can submit, the roommate can submit, a friend can submit to say, I think this person's having a hard time. Can somebody please check in? And the Dean of Students' office checks in pretty quickly. I've done it, and I've heard from the student within a couple of hours, ooh, Dr. Rigger, you're on to me. But that's really reassuring, actually, to a student that, somebody from the Dean of Students' office, hasn't been to class, he's not answering email, I don't know, nobody's seen him. Somebody can go and knock on the door if we don't get what we need as a response from the student to a care form.
And I would say the care form is really utilized. We have close to probably 200 referral forms a semester, so people know about it because we push it so much, and we have a wonderful case manager who follows up with students, and not only the student, but also whoever submitted the care referral form.
And students really do fill it out for each other, and the case manager is going to talk to students this afternoon about that care form so they can start learning about it right away. We have time for one last question. Be in the middle over here.
Hi, I'm going to go back to the whole issue of conducting classes. So my kid got into a class because the registrar, said that that's an okay class to get into, but then the professor got back to him saying, no, you can't get into that class because it is only for, it has a requirement that only, basically that he's getting credit for through the AP credit. So is there a way to adjudicate this? Because if you've received a credit that fulfills the requirement, why wouldn't you be able to get into the class? And also, why is he being registered on the official, through the official channel, and now the professor is going back and saying, well, you can't do that. So who decides in the end how that gets
So I know exactly what you're talking about. There is an econ professor that emailed all of their students without the prerequisite for the class, telling them that they need to get out. They don't have the prerequisite. But the problem with that is we have thousands of AP, IB, dual enrollment, joint enrollment, all sorts of things coming in over the summer. So I have heard some responses back where people are like, oh yeah, I do have that prerequisite, but haven't sent my AP score in yet or whatnot. So just come see me afterwards so I can find out who your child is and we can see what's going on. If that particular econ class is not an option, there's Econ 101 in the spring, and there's also some other 200-level econ classes that honestly students have been a little scared of, I found out. One is called Economics of Mining and Sustainable Environments. And I think the students are like, whoa, that sounds deep, I just took AP micro and macro in high school. But I've spoken to that instructor. There's a lot of seats open in economics of mining. We changed the course description to reassure people first years with the prerequisite are welcome to take that class. So some of it is just nerves too about some of these classes and their titles, it's just the classes sound very different from high school classes that were very sort of basic, and people get nervous, but we'll find them something. But I'm assuming it was economics, right? Spanish?
No, it is actually a biostatistics class. So he has the AP Bio credit, which is a required, but then they're saying, well, AP Bio is only for non-bio majors. How does he even have a major yet? He doesn't even have a major. So
yeah, okay, we can talk about it. But
anyway,
AP Bio, you do have to retake the bio here. Have to retake bio here. AP Bio counts as a credit, but it's not an actual course equivalency. But we can talk about it when we're done.
Since that was a shorter one, we do have time for one more, if anyone has one last question. Great.
Thank you for everything. Two simple questions. One very mundane, cleaning the room. Is there a vacuum to borrow or something? And the second is, how can you be involved in music, continue to play, in our case, piano, without being involved in a class or in a band? Thank you.
So was the first question about bathroom cleaning? Oh, vacuum. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a vacuum to borrow? Yes, they can contact Residence Life, and there are vacuums that students can borrow if they don't have their own, because not every student has their own vacuum. That's kind of a thing that we wouldn't expect them to bring, but yes, they can borrow a vacuum.
So there are practice rooms in Sloan Music Building where students can play instruments, and I think all the practice rooms have a piano. Yeah, so your student can reserve a practice room for recreational music making. But I think if someone wants to do recreational music making, like maybe doesn't want to take lessons right now, although maybe will want to take lessons in the future, there are many, many, many wonderful students who are excited to do recreational music making with your student. So if it's just, like for me, I go home at night and I play the piano to calm myself down. If that's what it is, basement of Sloan, there's pianos in there. There's also a piano in here that students play sometimes. That might feel a little risky, but also that might be how you meet other recreational musicians. But we have a lot of scholar artists on this campus, and they are so creative and they bring so much joy to our life. So I'm glad you have brought us a scholar artist, and it's about connecting with peers who share that interest, and also just researching the facilities and opportunities that are available to make sure that maybe the basement of Sloan, where the practice rooms are located, is one of those hidden gems. Just like the college art galleries, the Van Every and Smith galleries in the Belk Visual Arts Center are another place where you can pass some happy time feeling enriched by the art around you.
I would also add, we have a big student culture of student bands, which is very fun to see the new bands perform each year. Every Thursday night at 10 p.m. in this building, we have an event called Live Thursday, which is just a student musicians showcase where like different student bands perform. And outside of the music building, we have a space just for student bands to get rehearsal space called the Depot. And so if your student finds himself forming a band, we're here to help foster and support that, which I think is a very fun thing. Thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you for the panelists. I have two housekeeping things before we head to lunch. The first, a reminder that if you don't know your holistic advising information, I'll help find it. The second is this afternoon, after the holistic advising sessions, we have 2 time blocks of different resource sessions for you to learn more about our resources, different offices and programs. Most of them are offered twice. 2 of them are offered once, and the information is a little mixed up on some of the schedules, so I'd love to go through that super quickly while I have you all. At 2:45 in the 900 room, we have the Scholar Athlete panel. So if you are the parent of a Scholar Athlete and want to hear from some of our current Scholar Athletes and ask questions, that'll be at 2:45. At 3:45 in the 900 room, we have the Student Life Resources session. So if you have more questions about residence life, student health and well-being, our case manager will be there. That is a great time to come hear more from them, to go a little bit deeper in those resources and to get more of your questions answered. So we hope you'll join us this afternoon, and then we hope you join your student and us at a sweet send-off at 4:30 in the President's House backyard. So thank you all for being here today.